Hello class. In this video we are continuing to basically graph this uh, rational function that we've been working on over several videos. And in those videos we found all the different components of this graph, and they're all listed here along with the XY table that we created. Now before I created this graph, I made sure that I included all of the numbers that I have in the values that I found. So like for example, on my x-axis, my smallest number is a -5, my highest number is a 5, so I made sure and included those numbers and every number in between. And then for my y-axis, my smallest number is a 0 and my highest number is a 2. So I made sure and I made a 0, I have 0 here, and I put the 2 up here, and I included all the numbers in between with like 0.1 tenth, per increment. So let's go ahead and get started and plot this graph. So the first thing I want to plot is the x-intercept. So the x-intercept was x is equals to -4, and that's where your graph crosses the x-axis, and that's going to be this point right here. All right. Now the next point is the y-intercept, is where your graph crosses the y-axis, and that's going to be y is equals to 1.33. I'm going to go ahead and put that point right here. But let's go ahead and label those points right here. So this is going to be the x-intercept, and then this is going to be the y-intercept. I'm going to go ahead and erase that a little bit like that. Intercept, little arrow right there. Okay? Alright, so next thing is the vertical and horizontal asymptotes. And remember, asymptotes are undefined lines that are on your graph that your graph itself, your function itself, will never touch. So let's go ahead and draw those, and we'll go ahead and draw those in red. So the vertical asymptote is equals to -3, so it's right here. So I'm going to draw a vertical line where that's not quite straight. Vertical line where x is -3. And then horizontal asymptote is where y is equals to 1. So 1 is right here for your y, and we're going to draw a horizontal line going through y is equals to 1. Okay? Alright, next is the hole. We calculated the hole. A hole is nothing more, of course, than an undefined point on your graph. It's probably called a discontinuity, another discontinuity along with the asymptotes. But anyway, it's an open circle on your graph. So this is the coordinates for it, 3 and 1.167. So this is the x value, is the y value. So at 3 and 1.167, that's somewhere right above 1.1 and 3. So it's going to be over here somewhere. Okay. All right. Okay. The next thing we're going to find, the next thing we'll talk about is the domain. And in our domain, what we found was we can use any values of x except -3 and 3, because that would make our denominator 0, which would cause these undefined areas, as you see here, the asymptotes in the hole. Okay, that's where those are x coordinates basically for this asymptote in the hole. Now, the XY table we created in another series of video, where we just made up some x values. We plugged it into this function to get our y values. Okay, so let's go ahead and plot those points. I'm going to do that in blue. There we go. Well, let's label this first. Go ahead and label this. Say this is the hole right here, so we know what that is. Okay. All right. So, all right, when x is -5, y is 0.5, so that's right up here somewhere. I think that's close enough. When x is -4, y is equal to 0, which makes sense because that's where our x-intercept is, right? Okay. When x is -3, okay, that is it's undefined because that's where our vertical asymptote is sitting. When x is -2, okay, y is 2.0, so we're going to go all the way up here. We're kind of going to guess it's like up here somewhere. Good enough, right? When x is -1, y is 1.5, so it's going to be over here somewhere, 1 and 1.5. I do believe this is pretty close. Alright, where are we at? So at negative 1, so now when x is equal to 0, okay, y is equal to 1.3, which is our x-intercept, okay? Right, the next thing is, where are we at? 0, so we're at 1 now, right? So when x is equal to 1, y is equal to 1.25. So 1 and 1.25, that's about right here. Yeah, okay. When x is equal to 2, y is equal to 1.20. That's about right there. And then, of course, when x is equal to 3, right, that is our whole, okay? In reality, if you were to plug this 3 into the original function, what you'll get is you'll get this as undefined because it makes the denominator 0. But since we plugged it into this simplified function, we get a coordinate here telling us where the whole is going to be. All right. So next thing is when x is equal to 4, y is equal to 1.143. Some 1.143, just a little bit right there. And then last is when x is equal to 5. X is equal to 1.1.25, something like that. So it's like a little lower right here. Okay. So let's connect the dots. All right. So let's go ahead and connect the dots, and let's see. Probably use green for that one. So on this side, well, let's start with this one. On this over here, right? Remember that the asymptote lines, your graph can't touch them. Okay. So I'm going to connect these dots right here. That right there. I know I'm in front of the camera at the moment, but it's kind of hard to do this without doing this. So I'm connecting the dots. And what will happen is your graph, your function will go into infinity in this direction, but will never touch this line, which is the asymptote line. And the same with the vertical asymptote, you know, this graph will go on forever in this graph in this direction. Okay. All right. But we'll never touch this red line. Okay. But it'll get closer and closer to infinity, but we'll never touch that red line. Now let's go ahead and graph this side. Now, we don't have a lot of points over here, but generally, if I connect them together, here's what you'll get. You get something that looks like this right here. Okay. If you had more points, you'd see that. This will do the same thing. Okay. This graph right here will go into infinity. It'll get closer and closer to this vertical asymptote, but we'll never touch. And likewise for this particular graph, it'll do the same thing. It'll never touch this horizontal asymptote, but it'll get closer and closer as you approach infinity. Okay, in that direction. And that is it. If you have any questions, let's go ahead and graph our asymptote lines too that way, so we know what they are. We'll go ahead and do that in red. So this is our horizontal asymptote. And this one is our vertical. I can't spell. That's an A right there. Start that over. Vertical asymptote. It's that line right here. Okay? Now if you have any questions about how we graph this particular function, just rewind, pause wherever you need to pause, okay, and then move forward and go from there. Thank you.